You know, I, you know, I, you know why? Why with this movie? What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're talking about a brand new VOD release, Music. And boy, do I have a lot to say on this. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were if you already saw it or if you are planning on seeing it. And make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my channel out there and growing the community. And if you are new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's talk about Music. This stars Kate Hudson as Zoo, who's newly sober and finding her way in the world when she receives news that she is to become the sole guardian of her half-sister named Music, played by Maddie Ziegler, a young girl on the autism spectrum. This is the featured directorial debut of the songwriter Sia, who also co-wrote the screenplay. And we'll just cut right to the chase and get to the most discussed element of this film, which is not only just the casting of the non-autistic Maddie Ziegler as Music, but the way in which Music is portrayed as the most stereotypical depiction of autism. And I'll make it clear right up front, I'm not going to rip on Ziegler specifically because, to my understanding, she was hesitant to take the role to begin with. I know it was partially because her and Sia have an extensive working relationship, and she was afraid of her performance coming off like she was making fun of the community, because this was a conscious decision made by Sia herself. Even though it was Ziegler's performance, it was Sia who had creative control over the project. She directed Ziegler, she signed off on this depiction, and while Sia has since issued an apology, what made matters worse was how she was initially extremely defensive leading up to the release of the film, when those in the autistic community issued legitimate concerns over the depiction of this character. And at the time, she was dismissive and annoyed that people were judging the film before seeing it. Well, I have seen the film, so here we go. Music is mostly nonverbal, outside of a few select phrases. She mostly moans, has a blissfully unaware smile, bobs her head, and has these reoccurring musical fantasies that look like something out of an actual Sia music video. And it's deeply unsettling to watch, especially during moments in the musical numbers where she's bobbing her head along to the beat. There's no other way to describe it. It's just very uncomfortable stuff for the sheer fact of how grossly stereotypical and tone-deaf it is. Think Simple Jack in Tropic Thunder, but played seriously. That's what we're talking about here. And the thing is, you can't even say this is a well-intentioned movie that just had one bad mischaracterization, though, to be clear, the characterization of Music is enough to warrant not liking this movie, but even how she's treated as a character, it's still really bad. Because Music is never actually treated as a character. She's seen more as a hindrance. She's a burden. Even though she does have some sort of relationship with some of the other characters, and I'll get more into them in a moment, that's not exactly the focus of this movie. While she's almost always by Zoo's side throughout the film, I'd say she's more of a side character than anything. And that's at best, as we really don't learn anything about her. Kate Hudson as Zoo is really our main character here. She's trying to get her own life back on track. She's been forced into this predicament due to the death of her grandmother, and it frustrates her a lot. And I will be clear that Kate Hudson's actual performance, for what it is fine. Not to the point that it somehow got nominated for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy at the Golden Globes, but the performance itself was okay. As far as the actual character goes, she's kind of bland though, but that's not even the main issue I'm trying to get at here. The way Music is treated as a character here is how she's an inconvenience on Zoo's life. Zoo is limited to only going to so many places and doing so many things because taking care of Music is a massive inconvenience to her. And that's almost always the way in which Music is discussed. A lot of this movie focuses on the many ways in which Zoo is hindered by Music's existence. Music is less of a character and treated more as someone who's just in Zoo's way. And it leads to a number of really offensive moments, including two sequences involving physical restraint, which was one of the many concerns raised by members of the autistic community, as that's something you're not supposed to do, because it can be deeply traumatizing. And there's also one really cringeworthy moment, which, by the way, leads into the film's most bizarre sequence, where the characters run into Sia playing herself, asking them for drugs, but it's where Zoo asks Music, who's prone to random fits of hysteria, to get all her quote-unquote freaking out of the way before they walk into this room full of people Zoo doesn't really know all that well. material. That's the crux of this film's emotional core, or should I say lack thereof. Can music not bother Zoo? That's almost what it's all about. You also have Leslie Odom Jr. here in the other main role as Ebo, Music's neighbor who eventually forms a romance with Zoo, and I will say, he is probably the best thing about this movie. His performance is way better than the actual material, and his character is written as the one who's trying to provide help and inspiration to Zoo and Music. While there's nothing too unique about the character, I really didn't have too many issues with him or Odom's performance. Now, is it enough to even remotely outweigh all the movie's bad elements? Absolutely not. And the same goes for some of the supporting actors who pop up, such as Hector Elizondo as another neighbor of Music's, Juliette Lewis as Zoo's friend, Kathy Najimy as Lewis's mom, Henry Rollins as another unnamed neighbor, and in probably the cringiest supporting role, Ben Schwartz as Zoo's flamboyant hairstylist friend, who's placed in here for laughs, but fails to accomplish that unfortunately. And usually I have no problem with Ben Schwartz, but this is painfully bad here. The issue is with the way in which Music is depicted, as well as the disrespectful way in which she's constantly treated, greatly overshadow the very small handful of okay elements in the film. And this is on top of the music sequences, and they're worth noting because we see them a lot throughout this movie. As I said, these are meant to depict the inner thoughts of Music, so to speak, and it felt like, to me, as an attempt to recreate something in the vein of, say, Pan's Labyrinth, where the main character used their fantasies to escape the traumas of the real world. I got vibes of something in that vein just through the use of song here. But the thing is, they make no sense whatsoever. They add nothing to the plot. They don't reveal anything about our characters. There aren't any parallels between these musical sequences and the events that go on in the real world. We may see characters like Zoo and Ebo pop up and they're dancing along with Music, but there's almost no point to these scenes. And they're about half this movie. Half this movie is one giant music video that has little to no connection with the actual story. If anything, it felt more like the purpose was just so Sia can add some of her own music in there, rather than provide anything meaningful to the story, which itself had little meaning to begin with. Yeah, no. This is pretty bad. I'm really not sure why or how this got nominated by the Golden Globes for Best Musical or Comedy, because while it does have some pretty good performances from Kate Hudson and Leslie Odom Jr., those are by no means able to save this movie whatsoever. It's deeply offensive for its depiction of autism, and it has little to no respect whatsoever to the character who this movie's named after. And those two elements loom heavily over the entire movie, and will repeatedly make you cringe rather than feel any semblance of inspiration. On top of the fact that the rest of the characters are poorly written, the story itself is kind of bland, and it's filled with way too many musical numbers that are incoherent and self-serving on Sia's end. This is nothing more than a misguided vanity project, and it's one I'd say stay far away from. Music gets a 1.5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see Music, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like anything about it? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.